Okay, so let's take a look at a framework called Electron, and if you don't know what it is, it's just something you can use to build applications for all operating systems basically. That's pretty cool in itself that you can write the code once and then it'll work on all the operating systems like Mac, Windows, Linux. The other really cool thing about Electron is that you can take your knowledge of the web and then apply it to building such applications. But it's not really a prerequisite to have the knowledge of that kind of stuff. It helps, but it's not required. All it really requires to start writing applications with Electron is a bit of knowledge of JavaScript and HTML, and that's about it. It's pretty simple. There's still quite a few new things to learn, but as you will see from the application that we'll be building today, it's not too difficult. Okay, so let's get started. Firstly, you need Node.js and npm, Node Package Manager, to download the required dependencies and such. If you don't know how to install Node.js, you can just have a Google around. Just Google how to install Node.js and your installer should come up or whatever. You can just go onto the site, get an installer, make sure you install npm, otherwise you can't install Electron. And once that's all done, you need to install Electron. So okay, so the way to install Electron, it's just a simple command here. So npm install -- save dev Electron, and don't worry, I'll put these commands up somewhere so you don't have to memorize them or write them down as we go along. So that's how you install Electron. The issue is, or one thing to note is that they don't actually give you a installation progress, and it can take quite a while. You don't have any indication. You will know it's done when you come off a tree comes up at the end with all the stuff that was installed, but just keep that in mind, so don't quit it if nothing's happening. Generally it's actually installing, but you can't see anything. Okay, so with all the installations out of the way, we can get started with some programming. So I'm actually following a guide written up by someone who's been so kind to do it, and he's probably put in a lot of time and effort into it. It's slightly outdated because it used the old version of Electron. So I just updated it a tiny bit and then placed the code online. So we don't want to start from scratch. It'll take a lot, making all the images in Photoshop and all that, because most of us aren't really designers or whatever. So it's a template. You can get the template here. I've uploaded it to my GitHub. So it's this template here. I should probably separate it from the rest of the code. So this is the code I want to get started with. This is actually the final application that you can check out if you want as well. I've added some extra stuff that wasn't in the tutorial. You can check that out as well. We won't be going over that stuff, but yeah. Alright, so how do you download this? Pretty simple, just clone, download zip. You can go to git route and pull it to your local machine, but we'll just keep this simple here. We don't want too many like extra stuff. This is probably for beginners, so we don't want to confuse them with extra stuff that they haven't seen before. So once you've downloaded that, you should end up with zip. Unzip it. Alright, so go into here. So this is the template. Just drag it to my desktop. Easier to work with. Alright, so just open it up. You can have a browse around. Since there's going to be quite a bit of code, I'm just going to be copying and pasting rather than typing it all out. Otherwise this tutorial might take hours. But the important thing is to really understand what's happening. So we'll be doing that. Okay, so where should we begin? It seems like a pretty large or massive thing. Well, let's see what we have first. So let's run this and see what we get. Alright, so how do we run this? So cd change directory to desktop. So we want to go into the folder, right? Make things easier. So alright, sound machine. So alright, so we're in the folder now. How do we start this whole application up? For now, we're going to start like this, npm start. Alright, so first we need to install the dependencies with npm install first. This might take a while if it's your first time, so bear that in mind. Okay, so once we've done the npm install command, I should end up with this stuff to show that they've been installed. Now we can do npm start to start the application. Okay, so this is it so far. This is what we have, the template. This has been designed by this person right here. He's written a Medium blog about it. Right here. You can check it out yourself if you'd like. He's also got other cool articles for you to check out. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's move on. Alright, so this is what we have. As you can see, you can click but nothing really happens. What we're building is just a sound machine, so you click the buttons and it makes noises. Nothing too major, but it's still something pretty cool. Alright, so you can see the buttons don't really work. How do you close it? You can close it like this, or just press Ctrl+C in the terminal window, whatever you prefer. So what should be our first feature? Well, let's add the sounds to the buttons. So how do we do that? Right, so let's go to index.js. So that's where all the main stuff goes. Let's open this in Atom. So make things easier. It's a bit hard to work with just like that. So these are the node modules that you've installed. If you're using Git, you probably want to ignore this. You don't want to upload all the node modules onto your repo. It's quite large. So alright, you can have a browse if you want. So where's JS? So let's go to index.js. Alright, so this is the code we're going to be using. So what does this all mean? Alright, so we're getting so this is the class button sound if you're not aware of CSS selectors. So we're getting everything with the class button sound, just assigning it to a variable. Here has a loop, so it iterates over each sound button. To make things clearer, we'll just look at what actually is an example of a sound button. So we'll have to go to the HTML, here. So you can see this is an example. So it'll be an element like this. This is one instance. You're gonna so each sound button represents one of these. So this whole thing here. So that's pretty standard JS stuff. So you can see here. So we're accessing the attribute data sound. So we can have a look what that is. So we can see that we're trying to get this value here. Kind of changes for each element. You can see this one's money and this one's crowd laughing, and see why we do that in a second. So that's the sound name. So you can substitute it in. I think it helps me to understand the code if you go through a scenario, kind of like debugging, how you substitute in the values, because sometimes the names aren't really too helpful, like sound name, you're not too sure what that means. In this case, in our very first run through, when I is 0, it's gonna be this one, so it'll be this value here. So you can sort of go through it yourself if you like. So you can see sound, you can do something like this, and then you can substitute it in. So like what the sound button, like I said, sound button was this whole element here. You can imagine, obviously that's not literally how it is represented under the hood, but you can sort of think of a high level, like that's what's going on. A sound name, it's this, and then these are the parameters for the function, prepare button function. So so what's that? We write it down here. So again, you can substitute it in. Button element in this case is sound button, and then sound name is sound name, and then so that's not too hard to understand, I think. This kind of gets a bit hairy down here. So again, we're kind of doing something similar. You can see here, just trying to grab the element. Span dot style dot background image. Okay, so to me that looks like we're trying to set some background image, right, for the span element here. Well, what's that? So we're trying to get the URL of the image. This looks kind of cryptic, but really it's just in the end we're just gonna end up with something like this. Image icons. So basically we're trying to generate some path, right? So this, and then .png. So nothing too bad. So what we can find it like it's referring to this folder here, and then icons, okay, and then you can see right here. So we're trying to access this image basically. So that's not too bad. So basically just setting the span. What is the span? For this case, will be this one. So we're referring to this thing right here. For our first case, for our first iteration of the loop, we're gonna set the image. So it's gonna look like the image of this is gonna be it's gonna be inside the inside here. There they go. Here, right here. We'll see how it all turns out, but yeah. Okay, so setting the image. You can sort of comment it if you like as well. If put it in your own language that helps you understand. Setting the image for button. So I think that's good way to learn as well. Alright, so what's this? Audio. So some kind of audio object. Same thing here, just generating a path to refer to it. Sound name, so it's the thing before. And then so you can see, okay, so what's that referring to? Okay, so this folder here, and again this. So basically we're just trying to get the sound for that particular button, right? So you can think audio. Okay, audio. Well, audio is the sound for that particular button, right? Alright. So what are we doing here? Add event listener. So event listener, you can sort of think of it as like a trigger. So this is the trigger. So you're setting the trigger here. One of the parameters click. So the trigger is a click. What's button element? So if you forgot, remember it's this whole thing here, right? This whole thing here. This is the button element. So when we click on this, so it's a bit hard to visualize right now. Okay, we'll see later when we start it up again. But when we click it, this happens. So what's this? Audio.current time. So remember, audio was this, right? Remember? So audio current time 0. So what that does is it just sets it to the beginning, right? So each time you click it, it's going to start from the beginning. It's not going to start like in the middle or somewhere. That sounds pretty logical, right? When you play a video or music, you want to start at the beginning, not some random time. So and then dot play. Yeah. All right. So I sort of went through this code pretty slowly. I'm gonna go through a bit faster the other code, but this is to just give you a general sense of what's going on. Alright, so Control S to save this, and we can see our changes that we made. So just start in the usual way, npm start. So there we go, and you can see straight away our code, what our code has done. You know, so we were setting the image as I was saying. So just reduce the size of it from side by side. Just get this out of the way, side by side. So remember, so here's some. So here's we wrote a comment so that set the image there. So then when we click, so as you can see, what's happening here is we're triggering the event we wrote here. When we click, this code gets executed here. Alright, you see, and you can see when we click on it, each time it starts from the beginning because of this this code here. Alright, so that's it. Next, let's try and close the application. Now it's pretty dumb to have to you know, go to the command line and press Control C or whatever to try and quit it. Alright, doesn't even work the first time, so let's do that. Alright, so what's the code to close the application? Alright, so this gets slightly more specific to Electron now. Go to main.js. Why do we need to put the code in different folders and stuff? It gets kind of technical. We can just put in the back of our minds first and just focus on the code. You can search it up later if you'd like. But yeah. Alright, so IPC main. Alright, what's this? What's going on here? We'll put all these kind of things at the top here. So we're just trying to grab a module or library that someone else has written, right? This code is kind of like a black box. We don't know what's really going on. I mean, it'll take us a very long time if we had to write us all from scratch, right? So kind of taking someone else's code, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, you have to learn all their variables and stuff and how they named it in order to use it. But you also get a lot more functionality. All right. So what's this? All right. So just put this here. So like a module to handle messages sent from renderer process web pages. All right. So that probably doesn't make much sense to you if you're a first time. You've never programmed in anything like this. All right. What's the renderer process? So index.js is an example of a renderer process. You can search it up if you like, but we'll just pretend for now that alright, this is a renderer process. Don't need to go into the technicalities just yet. So then close Windows. So this is kind of like what we wrote before, right? That add event listener that we just wrote. So similar to this, it's a trigger. So what's the trigger here? The trigger is this: close main window, right? And okay, so this is, you haven't written in the ES6. This is some new syntax. It's just the same as this really. Some people say it's cleaner. I mean, matter of personal opinion, does the same thing at the end of the day. So alright, so app.quit. What's app? App is really your whole application. You can think of it. So we're just quitting the application. Pretty simple, right? So when this is sent, so how do we send this one? Alright, so we'll go back to our index.js. Alright, so again, doing something similar when we were trying to grab IPC main. Alright, so IPC renderer, right? This is renderer and this is main. It even kind of matches with the name main.js. Alright, so here we're sending the message, right? We're sending the thing that we want to trigger. So when do we send this? Obviously, intuitively, we want to send it when we click on that big white X, right? I'll keep the application open so it's easier to see what's going on. Whoops. Alright, I think we closed that. Alright, need to. Alright, boy, what do we call it? Alright, sound machine, seeding to sound machine. Alright, the clear doesn't work here. Alright, you can just scroll down. Make things easier. Alright, we can start. Just alright. So intuitively, when we click on this, we want the application to quit, right? Alright. So when we click on this is what the code does. So grabbing the element, right? Grabbing this X, shoving it into this variable, alright, and adding this trigger right here, like similar to what we've done already, right? So when we click on it, it sends this out, right? It sends this string internally. You can kind of think of a high level that internally in the application it's sending this string, and then this process here, the main process, sees it, right, when it's sent. So we click this close main window, sent in the application internally, and then main process is okay, so the string has been detected, so let's execute some code, and this is what gets executed. Alright, so let's save this. Alright, We need to restart the application, unfortunately. You can just press up arrow for executing code again that you've already done. So you can see, there we go, pretty simple. You can close our application now. Right, alright, let's move on. I think this will be a pretty long tutorial. It's already nearly 25 minutes, so we'll see how we go. Okay, so what should we do now? Alright, let's add some shortcuts to our application now. What are shortcuts? So shortcuts, you know, when you press Control Q or Command Q, you know, you want something to happen. Generally that quits the application. Let's add that functionality to our own app now. So how do we do that? Alright. So obviously probably we need some extra code, right? To get that kind of functionality. So we're gonna need to import, sort of like importing some code from somewhere else that's not in our application, right? So we're getting global shortcut from Electron, wherever that is. Alright, so that's it. Alright, well, what's going on here? Global shortcut register. Alright, you can see it's similar to this as well now. Again, when Control Shift plus 1, so when you press those all three at the same time, you execute something, right? So what you execute this line of code: main window.webcontents.send. So this is confusing because really we never seen these functions or whatever these are before, but we'll try and fight through this, alright? Because the namings it kind of tells you what's going on already. So main window, kind of like this, you know, we're sending something, right? We're sending this. So it's similar to what we've done here, right? So sending close main window, sending global shortcut. This time we're doing the reverse, right? We're sending in main, we're sending it to index.js, right? Before we're sending index.js some info, like some information to main.js, right? Now we're sending it back to here, right? So we want something to happen. So what do we want to happen, right? This. So what's this? So you can see this is what gets sent. We're trying to detect this global shortcut. All right. EARG. What's EARG? Well, short for event and argument, right? So the argument would be this here, 0 and then 1, right? Depending on if you press Control Shift 2 or Control Shift 1. So it sends this. Why do we want to send the number? What's going on here? So let's read the code. Event equals new mouse event click. All right. So intuitively, if you don't know what that means, I mean, I don't know what it means, but it looks to me like some sort of mouse click, right? So we're trying to trigger an event, right? Dispatch event. Trying to trigger an event. So what are we trying to trigger? Alright, sound buttons. What's sound buttons again? I don't remember. Oh, let's look. Okay, so sound buttons is up here. So remember, the sound buttons is just a list of order elements that contain the class sound button, right? So we can go back to index.html and just these, right? Just this all the way down, you know. It's just a list of these, and then it's an array, right? So we can access it by going like 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever. So remember, arg was a number of 0 or 1, so what that means is we're trying to access the 0th element in sound buttons, right? And what's the 0th element in sound buttons? Remember, it's just the first element of the array, right? And what's the first element of the array? Well, the first element of the array is would be this, right? Because there's nothing before it that has sound button class. It should be this, right? All right. So we're taking this element again. So what are we doing with this element? The dispatch event. So the event was a mouse click. So we're trying to trigger an event for this element. I think visually it will be a bit better. So let's open the application again. Alright. Some technical difficulties. Alright, because we're still editing the code, we can't change it. Alright, okay, just postpone that, put a rain check. So that's what it is. Okay, so let's save and see what's going on. Alright, so we got an error going, so it looks pretty creepy, like was error stuff coming at you, or these new words you haven't seen before. Well, let's scroll to the top and see what's going on here. Global shortcut check fail browser. So this all doesn't really make sense. So, well, logically it has to be some code that we implemented that that didn't work out. So what's the code? Alright, so it has to be somewhere here. Alright, so it should be this code here, because that's the only thing we changed and what must be breaking. Well, it turns out that you gotta put this in app.ready. So what that is it's code that gets executed when the application starts. So it's just how they designed it. So you gotta register the shortcuts when the application starts. All right. So, I mean, that's why it's good to go through things step by step, right? Logically, your previous code, it's unlikely your previous code was breaking the application. It's most likely code that you've just written. So that's the only code we just wrote that broke. So okay, now it's working. All right, it's loading. So let's test out the shortcut. So I'm pressing Control-Shift-1. Right, so it's this, right? It's the very first element, the 0th element. It's this. All right, let's press Control-Shift-2. All right, it's this one because this is technically saying I want the 0th element here, and I want the first element, whatever that may be. Because of this line here, right? This line, arg is the number. You can change it, so you can alter a bit of code to understand what's going on. If I put some string here, obviously I'd break the code, but what would happen? Let's make it ABC. If we go here, when we run it, when we press Control-Shift-1, what's actually going to happen is we're going to do this. Obviously that's not valid JavaScript, but that's what's going to happen, right? And sort of run through that scenario in your head. I think that helps me understand the code better. Maybe it might help for you. All right, that's good. We're making progress. We can make noises. We've got icons going. We can close this. We can use shortcuts. It's already quite a bit of functionality that we've added, and with a relatively few lines of code. So that's really the power of frameworks here. We're kind of just using other people's code and implementing it. Obviously, you kind of in a way protected to know what's going on under the hood, but you can learn that in your own time if you really want. Okay, so let's move on. Settings page. So obviously we want to give the user some options. Maybe they don't want the shortcut Control-Shift-1 to do that. Maybe they've already used that shortcut. Generally in programming you don't want to assume what the user has and doesn't have, so we want to give them like some options, right? So how do we do that? Alright, this one's a bit longer now, but the code's relatively simpler to what we've already seen, so nothing too bad. Alright, so what did we just paste in? We just pasted in this. What's this? Alright, so we've seen this before. Open settings window. So you know we're trying to detect the string being sent from index.js. So okay, so what's this? Alright, preventing multiple settings windows to open. This is what this if statement does. Just a little programming trick to stop people opening multiple settings windows. So settings window can either be some value or false, because if there is no settings window, so when there's no settings window, right, it'll be false or null or whatever. The Boolean representation will be a false. So this doesn't get executed. So you can think of it like this, sort of. I mean, looking at this, it might not make intuitive sense. So you can sort of think of it like this: if settings window is open, sort of like pseudocode, is open, or if saying window exists or whatever, we want to just return. So just skip everything, right? So that prevents. So this, all this code does is open a new settings window, right? So we want to skip this, right? Because it's already open. If it exists, don't open another one, right? Another one, yeah. That makes sense. All right. So let's open one. How do we open one? Browser window, all right? Browser window object. Some kind of options that we want to set. How do we know, like, what frame height? How do we know what options to set? What's that? So in real world, you'll probably need to look up the documentation that Electron wrote and look up browser window, then look at all the options. But we can ignore that for now and just take this code. So it's just pretty simple, plain English, height, resizable. We don't want to resize it. Frame, you know, frame is like this, you know, this kind of stuff that comes with the application. We don't want that. We got our own frame, right? Width, alright, so that makes sense. So the window, we're adding URL. So we want the HTML to represent this settings window, right? And we're just pointing it to this place here, app settings HTML, right? App settings HTML. This. So this will be this will get rendered, right? And this helps us generate the settings window, right? Okay, so and then we're putting another sort of event listener here. .on closed, set it to null. So by doing this, you know, kind of like the high level idea is trying to say there is no more settings window. So the point is for this code not to be executed, right? We don't want it to return, because we want, when the user clicks, we want them to make a new settings window. So it's pretty simple. Okay, the on close settings window. Alright, so nothing new here. if it exists, if settings window exists, right, we want to close it. Obviously you don't want to close something that doesn't exist. Alright, so that's good. We'll save. So let's go to here now and add the relevant code. So it's the code, nothing new here. So let's save it. I think it'll be nicer if we just had the actual application open while we explain it. I think it's nicer visually. It's nicer to understand something if we actually we can see something visually. So here's the app. This is the settings, right? This is what it's referring to. The way to know that, I mean, obviously you could say I'm guessing here, like this line of code here, it could be grabbing anything, right? Intuitively it would be this thing here looks, universally a cog thing represents some sort of setting, some change or whatever you want thing. You can do it more, you can do it, you can sort of find out more accurately if you look at the code. Obviously not here, it's going to be an index. Remember, this whole thing is actually represented by index.html, right? It's like a web page, and then if you know how websites work, index.html, it kind of renders some sort of web page. You can put images and stuff, align them using HTML and CSS. Is kind of what's happening here. So index.html, it's right here. So yeah. So what's dot settings? Where's dot settings? Sometimes it gets a bit hard when you have a lot of lines of code. Just do Control F. All right, so this. Remember, we know that it's closed, so it's right next to this. All right, so we can determine that. Dot settings is probably referring to this this code here. Here is probably trying to grab this element here. Okay, so alright, so adding event listener. So again, just another usual. Alright, dot click. Alright, so we got some error message here. So again, we're gonna work through it logically. This time it's a bit more helpful. We got something here. So the culprit, line 36. What's line 36? We'll take a look later, but you can see what's going on here. When we click it, open settings, we'll send open settings window, go back to main.js, open settings window, we want to execute this code here. Alright. So line 36, if settings window, alright, so I'm guessing we haven't kind of assigned a variable settings window yet, so we probably need to do that. Let's do it here, because obviously when we haven't defined settings window yet, and we're kind of just like, before we were saying, oh, tell me what settings window is, but we haven't declared it, right? We haven't declared it yet, so we don't know what it is, so we need to declare it. So close it again. Run it again. Alright, so now it works. So it's rendering. So this is the settings.html, right? This is it. This is the code to make this blue box here, blue square, whatever. Okay, move it around, whatever. but we can't. We got these checkboxes, but not too useful yet. We want to tie it into some code. Let the user alter it. All right. So, and this doesn't work here, so probably need to get that working soon as well. All right. So how do we do this? So we're gonna go into settings.js now, a new file. So, I mean, the names are kind of linked, you know. Settings.js refers to the JS code for settings.html, and index.js refers to the code for index.html. So that's kind of easy to follow. Simple names. So remember, we want to like close the application, do stuff in the application, you know. In settings, that blue box that we had, this blue box, this thing here, right? We want to click it and want to close it. So that's what we're doing now. So, right, close settings window. Let's just save this. Obviously, we need to restart the app again to see the full effect. I'll just take that out of view. It's nothing too interesting going on in our terminal, so I just put it so we can see. We can close now. And why does it close? Remember, we saw the code before, because in here, you know, this time it's not in index.js sending the message to main.js, right? It's settings.js sending that string, this string here. Close settings window, this string here, and then main.js is getting it. Obviously, technically that's not what's going on, but to get a sense of everything, you can sort of think of it like that. So that's pretty cool, but let's actually just try and add some functionality that's not aesthetically related. All right, so now it gets a little bit tricky. We're gonna need to install another library, or libraries like some code that someone else has written. We've never met the guy. He's been kind enough to share his code with everyone. So what's this? So we're gonna need to download nconf. What's nconf? You can have a Google around, but it's just for JSON, to generate JSON files and read it and stuff, and make our lives easier, right? ObviousObviously we can write that code ourselves, but it takes time. So how do we install it? So similar to how we installed Electron. Install, save, nconf. So we want this to be in our package.json when we finally distribute it. This might not make any sense right now, but you'll see later when we package the app. What packaging means is converting it into an executable or app or whatever for the operating system. So you're used to it like this. We can double click it now and then it opens, rather than trying to use the terminal to open it. It's taking a while to download. Don't remember it being too large, but we'll see. So right now we haven't turned it into like a binary or whatever like this, right? But we will soon. Okay, so now we've got nconf. We can use their code, right? Why do we need to use their code? Okay. So let's this might get a bit confusing, but let's just follow along here for now. So we're making a new file called configuration.js. in the root directory. Oops, we made in the app directory. We want in the root directory. So here, what are we putting in here? Why is it a separate file name as well? We could have put it in settings.js, but we want to make our own module, right? What's a module? We'll see what's going on, but for now let's go over what kind of code we have here. All right, so nconf. So that's what we just installed, right? That's what we just downloaded. So we're using their code. Require nconf.file. So some extra options or whatever, and the way to know what you need to put in here, what kind of options. Again, you have to read their documentation, that sort of thing. But we have this here. So config.json. So you may be wondering, well, what's this? We'd never seen it. I never seen it in this thing here. It actually, nconf just generates this automatically for you. And what's gonna happen is we're just gonna remember the user options, what sort of shortcuts the user wants in this file, right? We're gonna remember it. This might not make any sense now, but we're gonna go over we're gonna implement it, and hopefully it makes more sense. So let's move on. Function save settings. So that sounds like, oh, we just wanna save the user settings. Again, that might not make sense now, but we'll hopefully it'll make more sense later. So setting key, setting value. What's that? We'll see later, but that's how JSON is. It's kind of like a dictionary or hash or whatever in other programming languages. That key value pair idea, so the thing's slightly different to an array. How arrays are ordered. You know, the key value pairs, they're not ordered, or they don't need to be ordered because values are derived from the keys. So we don't sort of need that ordering, that kind of stuff, that comp sci 101 stuff. Don't need to know it, but just some yeah. All right, so read settings. So we're gonna just we want to get the value now this time, you know. So setting key, trying to get that value. All right, get user home. So this code might look a bit weird, but since we're writing a cross-platform application, sometimes it can get a bit difficult because the way they design their operating systems is different. You know, the path is named differently and that sort of stuff, and so sometimes it's a bit annoying. So here we need to put a check of Win32. What Win32 is, it's just Windows, refers to Windows. This is just more nerdier way of calling Windows. Win32, nothing much. This ternary operator. What's going on here? So if this is true, this gets executed. If it's false, this gets executed. It's just the abbreviation for like this, really. If you've never seen it before, I apologize if this is too basic for some people, but yeah, obviously this isn't valid JavaScript. We need to put brackets there, but just you know, just quickly type in what it actually what it means, like if you alternatively the meaning. Okay, so it's just this. If you haven't seen this before, this is what it refers to, just shorthand. I mean, they could have wrote it like this. Again, they're making it pretty short, you know. Kind of confusing, I know. Some people like it like this. They like to write one-liners, trying to show off their coding skills. Basically, in the end, all it really is just this. What you get, process dot environment, and then this or home, and then it again returns just the home directory that in the end. So hopefully that made a bit of sense. Alright, module export. So we're just exporting a module to use later on. So we'll see how it all goes. Alright. So quite a bit of code. But back here again, main.js. Alright, so what do we have here? Alright, so what this is the new code that we just trying to separate our old and new code. Alright. Just this. So remember, we need to import our module, right? Because sort of direct our application to point to the code that someone else wrote, right? So grabbing a module that we wrote, where is that? Well, it's right here. So this is the path. Dot represents our current directory, and then this is the file. It's called that. Assigning it to this variable here, or constant actually. That's what const is. So constant is we don't want it to change throughout the life of the application, right? So what's going on? We got so this goes on the app ready, because remember, it's just how they designed it. We're gonna be deleting this one because we don't need it. See in a second why we don't need it. Just replacing with this code here. Sec level shortcuts. Alright. Because remember, we need to put the shortcuts in app ready. It's just how it is. If you don't like that, you could write your own framework that doesn't require you to put shortcuts, loading shortcuts in the app ready place, but it's how we have to do it. All right. So read settings. So this function looks familiar, right? So what's going on? We just put a new panel. So enlarge this. So read settings is this, right? It's this function that we wrote earlier. Now we can sort of understand it a bit easier. So that now we know settings key is shortcuts key. Okay. Shortcuts key. Load. Nconf load. Well, let's go through this. What this means first. Okay. So again, they're kind of trying to shorten code. It's just basically saying if the shortcuts so let's just go through this line of code first. So what is this going to return? All right, it's going to return this get setting key. So it's going to return some sort of key, some sort of list of keys, right? Okay, so let's just explain this in plain English. So say if no configuration for shortcut keys key. Alright, then we do this. So if no, so if there is no such shortcut keys, then we create it, right? So save settings. Generally this will happen when it's the very first time we run our app, and what's this telling us is that the shortcut keys will be Control and Shift. What do I mean by very first time we run the app is when you first downloaded it, you probably don't have any settings saved, so that's the first time. It's not when you close it then open it again, right? That's kind of the whole point of why we're doing this, why we're dragging the user settings into a external document, is because we want it to be persistent. And by that we mean when we close the app, it still remembers our settings. And it's okay if you don't understand it now. We're gonna see it actually occurring later on, so we know what's going on. All right, set global shortcuts. So we're calling a function. What's that function? Let's scroll down. We saw it earlier. Alright. This is we've seen this kind of style before, setting global shortcuts again. So probably we're gonna want to trigger this again somewhere in the code later on. So but let's look at this. What's this? Unregister. So without reading the documentation, if you wanted a detailed explanation, again you have to go documentation or Google or whatever. Generally the documentation is more reliable, more up to date. So unregister, or basically all shortcuts that we have predefined, we don't want them anymore, throw them out. Okay, so shortcut key settings, just expand this a bit. Alright, so we're doing the same thing again that we did here in that if statement, aren't we? But this time we're not just checking the true or false value. So in this case it'll be well, we sort of don't know what exactly it returns if shortcut keys doesn't exist. We've never created it before. My guess is probably that it returns a boolean false. By that I mean, like in JavaScript, null, when you evaluate it as a boolean, it's a false. So maybe it's a null or whatever, something that's false. All right. But this time we're actually trying to do something here. You can sort of think of shortcut keys as just basically all your shortcuts, right? Let's see what we mean by that. Okay, we're just assigning it to a variable. Again, you can see this ternary operator in action before. Explained it earlier. So what's this? So if length is 0, so if length is 0, that means we have no shortcuts. Okay, so we shortcut prefix. So right, so it's going to be an empty string when we have no shortcuts. Okay, so you can sort of type this out. It's a bit hard to remember. So let's write it down somewhere. It consolidates our understanding of the code. So what's this? Well, when we have no shortcut keys, we want shortcut prefix to be empty string. Alright, and otherwise it's gonna be shortcut key settings dot join. So this is a bit hard to understand, but basically what's going on, let's take the example of the initially this is gonna be our shortcut keys, right? And and we're gonna call dot join. We're gonna call dot join on this. So this is what's going on here actually. This is what's going on. So I think it was plus believe, and so if you don't know what that code is, basically this is what's the outcome. All right, so and then plus. Okay, so that's that's not too difficult. So it just joins each element using a plus, and then we just put a plus at the end. That's what's going on. Why we're doing that, if you don't remember, remember that we had if we had something like this in this place, right? We deleted it, but we had code like this, and basically this just represents a shortcut, the pluses. That's just how the designers of Electron chose to represent shortcuts. Pluses, it could have been commas, maybe commas work, I'm not too sure. Again, you would have to dive into the documentation to know. But okay, so moving on. So that's what happens, right? Our very first time we initialize our program, this is what's gonna be in shortcut prefix. It's gonna be what we just wrote. Control plus Shift plus that. All right. Nothing too bad. So what's going on? Shortcut prefix. So we're adding a 1 to it in this case. So we have 4 things. You can see these they all look kind of the same actually. In fact, they're all the same. The only difference is the numbers. All right, numbers. What's going on here? We've seen this code before actually. We had this code actually inside app before, and we deleted it. So it's the same thing. Nothing new. Just registering the shortcut. Control Shift 1. We're registering that. For example, in the first run through, and then we want 0. Remember why we want 0? We want the 0th element of the sound buttons, right? It's everything's the same. Like in the index.js view, in this renderer processes view, nothing's really changed, right? They're still running this type of code, but now that the code's kind of gotten more complex in main.js because we're trying to read in from a file, right? We're trying to read in from this here. We're trying to read in the file, the shortcut keys. We're trying to get the shortcut keys, and we're trying to get it from this file. Remember? So here, this file stores all our shortcuts basically. So that's what's going on. You could write a loop for this to simplify the code. Yeah, maybe that's a simple exercise for you to do in your own time. So okay, let's save this and see if everything's working. So actually, I think there's something. Yeah, there's one more section of code we need to add for it to all work, and that's this here. So we need to go back and do settings.js. Remember what settings.js was? It was for that blue square. So we want to do something with the checkboxes, right? We want to do something when the user clicks on it. Hopefully we can get the thing up. Alright, that's good. loads. So this, right, we want something to happen when we click on these, right? So intuitively, like when I have this occurring, I want Control and Shift to be my shortcuts, right? So when I press Control Shift 1, it triggers this, and when I have this, I want just Control 1 to be this, right? And then Control 2 to be this, and then Control 3 to be this, and so on and so forth. So and then when this is nothing, we can just press 1, 2, or 3, or 4. So how do we do that? Let's look at the code. Okay, so what do we just copy and paste? So modify checkboxes. So global shortcut. All right. So this is, you can see how code is. It's more or less the same stuff, just slight variations. If you recall, same thing as this, right? But this time we want the global shortcut class. So what's the global shortcut class? It's gonna be I think I closed it. Okay, so it's gonna be these things, right? If you want to make sure, you can go over the code, go over here, settings HTML, and then again you can look. Okay, global shortcut. Okay, input checkbox. All right, this looks like a checkbox to me. It looks like it's referring to this. So yeah, we can confirm that is indeed what we're trying to get. So we're trying to get the elements, all the checkbox elements, modifier checkboxes. It's the name there that he's chosen. So what's going on? So again, we're going over each one, trying to loop over each one. So it'll be three iterations. I goes from 0 to 2. Okay, so shortcut keys. Again, remember what we're doing. We've called this we've seen this line of code a few times already in main.js. It's basically just getting this, right? Just this array. This does a lot of stuff in between, but this is the outcome, and that's all we really care about. So it's just this an array, this array here, shortcut keys. So that's it. We can leave it here. Maybe it's a bit easier so we can remember it, because just looking at the name, it's not too helpful sometimes. So yeah, so modify key. So which are data modifier, so it's an attribute.value. So what's the value? I guess it's Control Shift. We can confirm about that. So yeah, we're trying to get this value, these values. All right. So why are we trying to do that? All right. So in the first iteration, it will be Control, right? So it will be this, right? It can be more precise and say it's a string. So yeah, so what are we trying to do? Dot checked. Well, we can sort of derive what that means, even though we never seen this before. Dot check probably just means, right, if it's in this state, this is probably a boolean, and it probably returns true or something. So my bad. I mean, it's dot checked is whether it's checked or not. So we're just trying to check it or not. So it takes two values, most probably true or false, and that's probably what's going on here. So this is boolean, right? This is a boolean expression, evaluates to a boolean, either true or false. So what's this? This is just JavaScript's way of checking whether an element exists in an array. So I know it's arguable whether this looks good or not, maybe a bit cryptic, but that's what it does. And why does it do that? Because, well, index of modifier key. So what was modifier key again? So we forgot. Luckily we wrote a comment. So control. So checking if modifier key is in this here. Shortcut keys, remember, is an array. So index of control. So that to me looks like it's just going to return the index of control. It's going to be 0, right? That's how array indexing works. So it'll be 0 and then shift will be 1. So obviously this will be true, right? Because 0 does not equal -1. Well, what happens in the scenario of the alt? Pretend I is 2, and we have alt. Well, we can't return the index of alt, right? Because it doesn't exist in the array right now. So what's going to happen? So in Java, the default, it's going to return -0, and no matter what the string is, as long as it's not in the array, say pineapple, it'll still be -1. So this will evaluate to false, right? Because -1 does not equal -1. That's false. That obviously -1 equals -1. So yeah. So what's the effect of this in the end? So it's in this case it will be checked, right? It will be true. It will be true, and so it's trying to check the checkbox if it's not already checked, right? So what's gonna happen when we run through this in the end? Basically, control and shift will end up being checked because of this line of code here, right? Okay, so again, similar code. We've seen this before. Add event listener dot click. So what do we want to happen? So when we click on this, all right, dot click. What's happening? What's E? Well, let's see. Bind modify checkboxes. Okay, what is bind modify checkboxes? So let's see. So we're clicking on this, right? So what do we want to happen? So you can sort of think this through. Okay, so when I click this, I want the file. I want this file here. I want this JSON file. All the shortcut keys. I want it to remove control, right? Because I don't want it to be one of my shortcuts when it's unchecked. And then when I click on it again, I want control to be in my shortcut list, okay? Because that's what it means. So and then when I click on alt, I want to add alt into my list of shortcut keys. All right, I want to remember that, and when I close the application, I still want alt to be my shortcut keys, right? So how do we do that? Okay, so it's getting the shortcut keys again. So we can do this. All right, this is pretending this is our very first time that we're running the application. Why is it control and why is it shift? Well, remember that in main.js, when very first time we load it, right, when we never generated shortcut keys, we save it as control and shift. We could change this, and we could in fact delete all of this, and then every time when the user downloads our application, there will be no shortcuts, and they can just press 1, 2, or 3 and to trigger these. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, this is what's going to happen. Modifier key. Okay, what's modifier key? e.target.attributes.value. Okay, so we kind of know what E is now. Before we didn't really know what E was. E is just the checkbox, right? The the this it gets passed. Okay, so that's what E is, and then trying to get the value again. So in this case, it's again going to be control. So getting control. What do we want to do now? Shortcut keys.index. So we've seen this code again. So we can sort of just substitute this line. If it doesn't make too much sense to you, we can just you can write it like sort of in a Python or Ruby way. Shortcut keys array. If control is in shortcut keys array, okay, if it is, and these lines are equivalent, right? This is the English, plain English version of what's going on here. Okay, so if it is in shortcut keys array, what do we want to happen? We want to remove it, right? Because it in this scenario, that means that it's already checked and the user clicked on it and it's unchecked, right? And so we want to remove it because that's what the user intended. They wanted to remove the control shortcut, so we want to remove it. So how do we remove it? Okay, so getting the index shortcut key. So shortcut key index. In this case, it will be 0, as we said. Okay. Now this is. Again, this is JavaScript. You need to know what splice is. If you haven't seen it before, this is what it does. So shortcut key index. So it'll be 0 and then 1. What? So okay, let's. This is a good opportunity to like Google or pretend I forgot what splice was. Let's Google around. So splice JavaScript. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. So you can see this place has been kind enough to tell us what splice means. Okay, so you can see here. Okay, this looks a bit different. I mean, ours only had 2 parameters. This has infinite parameters. Basically, it goes to X. But we can be a bit naive here and pretend that okay, this is what it is. So index and how many. So alright, try and fit everything into the screen. So we can look index. Remember, in this case, we put this there 0. Is a 0. So this is the index. So we're starting from 0. And what are we doing? How many? So I'm guessing that's how many elements from 0. So you can sort of read the description of what's going on here. An integer that specifies at what position to add or remove items. Use negative values to specify the position at the end. Okay, so this is optional. Oh, okay, so these are optional. So that's why we were able to only have 2 parameters. Okay, so number of items to remove. If it's set to 0, no items will be removed. Well, obviously we'll want to remove 1 item, right? So we're gonna remove 1. Basically we're just removing the item at this index. Okay, and then at the end of this code, it's just gonna be right shift. That's it. That's the outcome of this. Okay, so what do we do? And then this one's a bit more simpler. If it is unchecked, right? Because if it's not in the shortcut keys array, it's gonna be unchecked, right? It's gonna be unchecked. So then that means when the user clicked on it, it's checked now, and now we wanna add that particular key, in this case control, into our shortcut keys, but this never gets executed because control was in fact inside our shortcut keys array. So in this scenario, what happened was this. Okay, so this is what happened. So the user clicked on control, right, and then we only have shift left. Okay, that's it. So obviously we wanna save these, right? We want some way to remember it. We just changed some variables. Now we want this change to persist throughout the life of the application. So save it. Okay, it's our new shortcut keys. And then what's this? IPC render as save. Well, okay, remember we saw something that was handling this before. So let's go back. Okay, so I think it was set global shortcut keys, I believe. Pretty sure. Yeah. Set global shortcut keys. I'll just save this. Okay. Can just remove that for now. Okay. So now once that's all done, we saved it into the configuration file. What do we want to do? We want to register it, right? Because we still need to tell our application, although we've written it down in a file, right? We still need to tell our application, hey, I want shift +1 to do this, to do whatever this is, right? And I want shift +2 to do whatever this is, right? Right? Okay. And so on and so forth. So now we've told our application to actually connect the shortcuts to some sort of action. Let's see this. Hopefully everything works fine, but if not, we can see what's wrong. So alright, so click on this. Well, it appears nothing's checked, so press Control and Shift and then close it and open it again. Okay, so straight away we see a bug here, right? Well, I said it was persistent, but it's not persisting. So what's going on? What's going on here?